It's time to do. Hello everyone, how you doing today? Yugi, we're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh today. Yes, we are. So, I'm sure many of you, especially people who are around my age, are familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh and have probably watched the anime. It was a very popular kids show back when I was young, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about it today because it is definitely a show that I really enjoyed, and it was a card game that I really love and still do. I own so many packs of cards. I own so many varieties of cards. I even owned the Egyptian god cards, which was part of the anime, a few seasons in. And I really like the game. I still, as I said, I still do like the game, and I haven't played it in quite a while though. I sold all my cards some time ago. I don't own them anymore. I sold them all, oh gosh, years and years ago. I had different sets for all the characters, and basically, as a brief rundown of how you play the card game. You have a field. You and your opponent have a field of 5 cards at the top, 5 cards at the bottom for slots. On the top part, you put monster cards. On the bottom part, you put spells and trap cards. Spells will usually activate some sort of effect to maybe power up your monster, for example, and then trap cards are going to be something to destroy your opponent's monsters. Things along those lines. And the whole premise is to attack your opponent and make them lose enough life points that you end up winning. So that is the brief rundown of it, and it's back then the rules were much simpler. Now you have, oh gosh, you got XYZ summoning and synchro summoning and all these other types of summoning. It's like I don't know what any of that is. Sorry, I just don't. I just don't. So yeah, I thought I'd talk about the anime, the first season of the anime, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters on the Duelist Kingdom. That is what we're talking about today, which is, I think it's around like 50 episodes or something along those lines. So I thought I'd talk about a bit about that because I'll probably talk a little bit about each season, in a separate video, but I just thought I'd talk about the very first one here. So before we begin that, the thing to mention about this show, and that's how it was with many other kids shows back in the day. You may have watched it when you were a kid, but the thing is, in Japan, it is not necessarily a kids show. It is a show for young adults, essentially, people who are teenagers. It's not necessarily people who are like 10 years old or younger. Okay, we're talking about teenage years. There is violence. There's blood, there's cussing, there are people pulling guns out on one another in certain situations. Guess what? All of that is edited and removed for the American version, and I cannot stand it. I do not like it. I really wish they would just release, all of the uncensored video. I mean, you can actually technically watch it in its original language in Japanese, uncensored. You can watch that, and it is a very different style of show. I've seen a little bit, but not too much for the most part. And they removed all that to make it more kid-friendly, so it will appeal to more audiences. And the thing is, it was by 4Kids Entertainment and Funimation. And Funimation actually did release, I want to say, like maybe 4 DVDs of the uncensored show in English, like an English dub. And I checked out some of that. There are some differences there as well. Most of the characters still have the same voice except for Mai. She kind of sounds like an old lady prostitute or something. I don't know. It's really weird. But then again, that's kind of her character in that. Well, she's not an old lady, but yeah, it is quite a bit different. The other thing is that they removed the opening and ending theme song. You know how Japanese animes, they have like a minute and a half opening theme song and an ending theme song. For a lot of kids shows, they took those off and they replaced it with like a generic 30-second thing, and it's of Yugi saying, "It's time to do." That's like the most memorable thing. So they removed that, unfortunately. I didn't know this at the time because I actually listened to multiple soundtracks from the anime, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, why don't I remember these tunes. Why don't I remember this track here? It's because all of the music in the anime was completely removed as well. Oh my gosh, just imagine the amount of work. It's like you couldn't even keep the original music. We're talking about instrumental tracks. All of the music in the anime, in the show itself, was completely removed and replaced with other music that's not even memorable. I mean, it really isn't. So it's like, you go through all this work, you do all this stuff, and it's like, ugh. Not to mention this, if you watch the original Yu-Gi-Oh! As a kid, you know, the Duelist Kingdom, and when you first started that, you may also not be aware that there actually was a series 2 years prior to that came out in 1998 called, what's technically considered the Toei series or something, Toei, and it essentially lays the groundwork for what is the rest of the series before the card games for the most part. It kind of it talks about the Millennium pieces, the pieces of the ancient Millennium items, who has them, what its powers are, and then, you know, there's a lot of shadow games that are being played, which we'll talk about that in just a moment. But that kind of lays the groundwork for explaining things in the series after. So, you know, I watched briefly some of that as well, and it's like, oh, this is really interesting. But it's not in English. It's not in English. So if you want to watch it, you can probably find it on YouTube with Japanese, you know, English subtitles. So yeah, that would be the only way. So the actual anime itself, okay. At least the first season, you know, the first Duel Monsters section, they just completely just make up the rules when it comes to the actual card game. In the actual real card game, you start off with 8,000 life points. In the anime, it's 2,000. In the anime, you can just literally bring out any monster you want from your hand. Oh, you have a high rank monster like the Blue Eyes White Dragon or the White Lightning Attack. You know, you want to do all that with the blue eyes and everything. Oh, you can bring them out first turn. There you go. No, in the actual card game, you're supposed to sacrifice other monsters that are weaker in order to bring them out, you know? But also in the anime, you cannot attack your opponent directly, which that makes sense then. Because if you only have 2,000 life points and you can bring out your most powerful monster right away, can't attack your opponent directly. So you have to attack your opponent's monsters in order to actually do damage to them. So that's interesting. Also in the anime are card exclusive cards. You know what I mean? I mean, it's anime exclusive cards, rather. Cards that only exist in the anime. Not to mention the card effects are completely, like, sometimes made up in the anime. It's like, look, I have this amazing card that I'm going to control your monster and I'm going to do this and that with him, when the actual card says, lose half your life points and then do this and do that, and then you can control your opponent, whatever. It's like, you just completely made up the rules for the anime, you know? So, anyway, regarding the actual storyline, the basic premise is, well, of the whole entire series, is kind of like the heart of the cards, okay? Where all the, you know, it's like multiple friends here, Yugi and Joey, okay, Yugi, Joey, Tristan, and Taya. That's her name. I was thinking Mai, but no, it's not Mai. Taya. Okay, so they're like the group of friends, and they have a strong bond, and they try to help each other through, you know, hard times and everything. It's kind of a little bit cheesy, I suppose you could say. And the heart of the cards is trust in your deck. You know, when you draw the next card, it's going to be a card that's going to allow you to succeed. You know, trust the cards. Heart of the cards. There you go. You draw it. If you don't have the heart of the cards, you're not going to win. Okay. So yeah. And then the other aspect is that this is very much based on, there's a lot of ancient Egyptian type of symbolism here in the actual anime. And basically what that is that multiple people have these ancient Millennium items, and they give the wearer a certain power. Although it can easily corrupt the wearer, and they can demand more, which is usually kind of what happens throughout the anime as well. And with these ancient Millennium items, these are based on ancient Egyptian type of, you know, things. And the main character, Yugi, he has the Millennium Puzzle, And inside of that is the ancient pharaoh from Egyptian times. He was a pharaoh. And that is what lies dormant within his puzzle. So when he's dueling, sometimes this pharaoh will come out and he will end up winning. But the thing is, there's a whole section about the shadow games in the shadow realm. I believe in the Japanese version it's considered hell. Okay, I think that's mostly what it's considered. So imagine just going to hell, and if you are playing a shadow game, this is what they used to do back in the day. This is how the card games came to be. In the ancient Egypt time, they used to use stone tablets with monsters carved on them with the spirit, of those monsters. And they would play these games in the shadow realm, and they would try to destroy their opponent, and whoever loses is trapped forever within the shadow realm. They essentially die. They're in hell. They're gone. They're dead. That was then adopted into a card game for the anime, and that's kind of what happened. You have these cards here that hold ancient symbolism with these ancient Egyptian, stone tablets that people used back in the day. So there's a lot of things there, and then because Yugi in his puzzle is this ancient pharaoh, he will come out and kind of do with these shadow games and everything. I think that's a very big part of that original 1998 series, prior to maybe what you have seen, but yes, that's basically what it is. Now, regarding the Millennium pieces, let me actually show you here. This is the Millennium Puzzle right here that Yugi has. But some of the other characters who have stuff is Pegasus, which is probably one of my favorite characters, like ever. He has a Millennium Eye. Okay, Yugi, it's like his power is like he can summon this pharaoh can come out, and he's a very strong, confident person. With Pegasus, he can see and read other people's minds. Another one of Yugi's friends, Bakura, has the ring, and that one's very evil, shall we say. There's a whole evil thing regarding that, and I think that's you see it a bit in the first season, but it takes more priority in the later seasons, so I'm not going to go too much into that. And then the other characters that really don't make too much of an appearance in the first season are Shadi, which he has the Millennium Key and the Millennium Scale. Merrick has the Millennium Rod, and then Ishizu has the Millennium Necklace. And all of these, again, grant the wearer different powers and everything. So, the whole premise of the first season is Pegasus. He is pretty much the creator of Duel Monsters. He owns this company called Industrial Illusions, and he created Duel Monsters, the game, the card game. And he's holding a tournament on his island, Duelist Kingdom. And he sends a personal VHS tape to Yugi Moto because he wants to get all of the Millennium pieces for him, Millennium items for himself, because he has an ulterior motive here of what he wants to do. And he sends a VHS tape to Yugi. He plays it, and they battle in the Shadow Realm, and Yugi loses. He runs out of time. So Pegasus steals Yugi's grandfather's soul and traps him in this card in the Shadow Realm. So he's kind of trapped there. So Yugi has a cause now to end up fighting, to actually go there. Pegasus also captures Yugi's rival, Kaiba, captures his brother, Kaiba's brother, Mokuba, and he's just the most annoying character ever. I cannot stand him. I cannot stand his voice. Big brother! Oh my gosh, I can't stand him. Anyway, he's so annoying. So Kaiba then has a motive to go and fight Pegasus as well on his own island. Now, there really was no reason for that because Kaiba did not have a Millennium item, but another motive that Pegasus wanted to do, why he was getting Kaiba involved with this, he wanted to steal Kaiba's company, which was Kaiba Corp, which is, again, involved with the Duel Monsters game as well. So he wanted to take that company for himself. He wanted to take all of these Millennium items, and at the beginning you think he's like a really, really bad guy and everything, but when you actually see what his motives are, it makes a bit more sense. You can have a bit more compassion for him, which we'll talk about in just a moment, but he's like literally like one of my favorite characters there. He really is. He's like one of my favorite characters in the whole series. I always like the bad guys, as you know. I always like the bad guys. So yeah, they all go to Duelist Kingdom. They're all fighting, they're all competing, they have these gloves, they get star chips as they're winning against other opponents. You see different strategies. There's different things here and there, and they fight. They all make it to Pegasus' castle. There's like a final battle against Yugi and Kaiba, and then Yugi kind of steps down because something like really bad is going to happen to Kaiba. He's going to jump off the building if he doesn't win. It's like really bad. It's like really bad. So Kaiba ends up winning, going and facing Pegasus. But because Pegasus has this advantage of the Millennium Eye to see what his opponent is in his hand and what he's going to do, Pegasus ends up winning the duel. And because of that, he ends up trapping Kaiba in the Shadow Realm within this card as well. So Yugi has another reason, because that's the thing. Even though Kaiba does not like Yugi, Yugi is still there to help Kaiba. So Yugi is there to help his grandfather, to help Kaiba, and to help Kaiba's brother Mokuba. That's essentially what he's going to do. So he ends up winning the tournament, getting to the very end. It's time to face off against Pegasus. It's like 6 episodes of just facing off of Pegasus. And as I said, I love Pegasus. I love his cards. I love his toon monsters that he brings out. They're really creepy and really weird. I love his relinquished character when they go and duel in the Shadow Realm, for the second half of the duel. So it is just really cool. I didn't really have the toon monsters, but I did have the relinquished cards, and I don't remember if I ever really used them. Like, they were like really hard to pull off. I don't remember, but yeah. So at the end of that, Yugi ends up finding a way to get around Pegasus's Millennium Eye by switching, in and out of the young Yugi and then the Pharaoh Yugi. Like, oh look, I'm going to put down a card here. I'm going to switch minds, like switch to my alter ego. My alter ego does not know what this card is. So you can't read my mind, Pegasus. You can't read it. So Pegasus just gets so upset here because the thing is, he may not really have much skills if he's relying on his Millennium Eye so much to see what his opponent's going to do to counteract it. He has no skills of his own, so he ends up losing, which is terrible. Terrible for him, because he wanted, his ultimate goal was to get all the Millennium items together and to take over Kaiba Court and all these other things, to put himself in a big position of power to save his wife. That was ultimately what happened. His wife, they met at such a young age, and they were about to get married, and then she ended up dying. And he wanted to bring her back. That was essentially what it was. So it was a very good motive. He wasn't trying to do anything like take over the world and do things evil, but the way he went about it was probably not the best. But because he lost, the other evil character, Bakura, he's a very evil. His normal self is fine, but once that spirit of his Millennium Ring starts to take over, he just turns into this evil villain. So he ends up taking the Millennium Eye that Pegasus had. And it's a pretty I don't think you really see it. You just it's probably cut out if they do see it. But yeah, that's pretty much it of Pegasus. After that, Pegasus is gone. You don't see him anymore. I think he's kind of still there, but he doesn't really exist anymore. But he did keep true to his promise to Yugi that if Yugi won, that he would release all of the souls of his grandfather and Kaiba and his brother. Which he did that, which was good. So really good there. So that's pretty much the whole premise of the whole first Duelist Kingdom season of Yu-Gi-Oh! There are a few episodes after they are done with the Duelist Kingdom, which again, it's just so bad that they just Pegasus is done, that's it. Nothing. It's oh, I love Pegasus. But he's Yugi boy, what you doing, Yugi boy? Oh gosh. So yeah, after that, as I said, there are a few episodes of a little kid that they are battling up against, who thinks that her blue eyes white dragon was stolen by a Yuki, and there's a few episodes of a virtual reality thing that Kaiba's testing out, and then a few episodes of Dungeon Dice Monsters, which is a whole different spin on the actual game itself. Instead of playing with cards, you're playing with dice. You roll the dice, you put the dice down, you move across, and you attack your opponent. So that's pretty much it for the most part of that first season. The second season definitely gets it is definitely different. It's a different type of competition, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, let me actually show you some of the merchandise that I have here as well. As I mentioned, I do have some. Well, I haven't mentioned it, but I do have some video games here. This is a PlayStation game, Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. But I also had Game Boy games, Game Boy Color games, Game Boy Advance games, including I believe it was a Game Boy Advance games of the Dungeon Dice Monsters. So I owned that. I played that. It was really good. And I will eventually play some Yu-Gi-Oh games. You know, there's like one available on Steam that has like everything combined, like all of this series combines all of the cards together. So I plan on getting that at some point and actually, you know, playing that, because even if you don't like the show and think it's like a kid show, the card game itself is actually, you know, pretty good. It's a strategy-based card game. So I do like the card game. So yes, here is a game here that I own. This was also PSP games that I owned. The Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Tag Force and Tag Force 2. This was before I even watched the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime, which is, it's a different series. It's not based on what I just told you at all. It's not based on Yugi. It's a completely different series, just like there's multiple other series. I never actually watched it. This is all that I know about it until I did watch it many years ago, probably like 8 or 9 years ago or so. And I watched it then, I'm like, oh, this actually isn't as bad as I was thinking it was going to be. I was like, ugh, I don't know if I want to watch that. But it actually wasn't too bad, to be honest with you. Then I also own a CD here. This is actually a single by, let me show you. Masami Okui Shuffle. I don't know if you can really see that, but here he is. And it is a single of, I think it's the second opening of the Japanese version of the game. So, yeah, it's, you know, all of the music was removed from the anime, as I said, but the Japanese version of the second opening doesn't really apply to the first opening that I just told you. That's it, you know. But yeah, this one's really good, and I like this one. So be sure to check that out if you want to take a look at that, take a listen to that. But yeah, that is going to do it for this review of Yu-Gi-Oh! Let me know, you know, what if you used to play this game or watch this show, or if you learned something here, because I'm sure I didn't know some of this stuff as well, that how heavily censored it was, and how there was an original series in 1998, 2 years prior, and all this other stuff. I did not know those sort of things, and you may not know those sort of things, how sensitive it was, you know, guns and violence, and there's literally sometimes parts in the anime. All these guards come in, and you see them like this in the anime, but they don't have a gun, but their hand is still like in the position, like they're holding the trigger, they're about to press the trigger. It's like, yeah, as an adult, you know exactly what's going on there, but it's like, what the heck? What the heck? So, I mean, I don't know. That is all. You all take care, have a great one, and let me know what amazing cards you have. If you still play this game, I'm really curious to know. So you take care, have a great one, and I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.